You definitely would have.
You know I know her. I texted her, I said, do you have any questions for me to ask the mayor?
That's because she probably at work too. She wasn't feeling well too. Especially if it was today.
Yeah, what today?
Yeah.
And welcome.
She wasn't feeling
I'd
good.
like to invite you to just enjoy the experience that we're about to encounter. I'd like to introduce to you a man of a very humble beginning. A man that was able to overcome the horrific misclassification of special education. A caring man, a man that will encourage you because he's been there and done that. And I'd like to encourage you to keep an open mind and be empowered to change your life. I'd like to present to you a man of men, Richard Utley. Richard Utley.
Good evening, and welcome to another Did You Know? Boy, we got an exciting program tonight. I have a special guest on tonight, and we're going to get some wisdom, some guidance, and some direction from this person that I have high respect for. Before we get started, usually, you know, I have my usual, have something to say. First thing I'm going to say, those of you who have them ballots out there, you better get them in. Please make sure you fill them out right. Please make sure that. The other thing is, number two, it's important that you get out to vote. Because if you don't vote, stop complaining about you don't have no say. Because it's very, very important. You know, last couple of weeks ago on my program, I had talked about how people are trying to make it a little rougher and a little tougher to vote. And we had talked about voter ID. And I said that, you know, the Democrats keep fighting the whole process about voter ID. And I said, you know, instead of spending all that energy on fighting it, maybe we need to develop a mechanism to make sure that people do have ID. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to happen. It's coming. It may not be now, but it's coming. You can see it in the play of the whole country. So those of you, get out to vote, make arrangements now. You got 2 weeks before we be going to the polls. So make arrangements now because your voice is very important. And unfortunately in Pennsylvania, you know, the Democrats vote for Democrats, the Republicans vote for Republicans, and the poor independents, you just sit on the sidelines. Do I think it's fair? No. Do I think that it should be like some other states where you go in and you vote regardless of who you feel is best for the country, the best for your neighborhood, and the best for your community? But unfortunately, Pennsylvania is not like that. So unfortunately, there's a lot of independents out there, but you got to sit on the sidelines and then you got to pick the two parties, whatever the Democrats and whatever the Republicans. Now I understand there's the Green Party and we understand there's other parties out there. But those are the two major parties. The other thing I'm going to bring up, and I told you I was going to continue to bring this up. It troubles me about crime. Black on black crime has always bothered me and will continue to bother me. And I'm going to call it that, whether you like it or not. We have to take care of our community. It's our responsibility to take care of our community. If you see some paper blown up, pick it up. Put it in the wastebasket. We have to protect our community, and as I said before, is that we have to elect people and reward people that look out for us. And if they don't look out for us, then shame on them. We need to stop rewarding people who don't look out for our best interests. So before I bring my guest on, one of the things I will say to you today, I always try to give us a history lesson. So tonight, I thought I would just throw some names out there. And these are all really elected officials. And I want you to do your research to find out who they are. Now, I'm going to bring up one, Adam Clayton Powell. Who is he? I want you to find out who Adam Clayton Powell is. And you will find that he did a lot. I was reading something today, and they were talking about Martin Luther King and the things that Martin Luther King did. If you go back and you'll see Adam Clayton Powell did a lot of things as well under the tutelage and working with Lyndon Johnson. As you know, a lot of things happened when President Johnson came in. We got a lot of things passed. Unfortunately, a lot of those things look like they're getting ready to be reversed. But we'll do something about that. The other one is Shirley Chisholm. You know, I watched her movie the other night, and I just thought it was very good. You learned a lot about her. You learned about her fight and her struggle. But not only you learn about her fight and struggle, but I think a lot of you will be able to identify to Shirley Chisholm. Another person is Bill Gray. You know, Bill Gray was someone, I'll just say this, from Philadelphia. But he played a very important role in Pennsylvania politics. And the reason I'm saying that to you is sometimes you go places and you see names of plaques up, and you need to do your research to find out, why do they have plaques about these people? Because they may not be here, but they are here spiritually, and a lot of things that they have done have made life for us a lot easier. I mean, I'm just going to throw some names out there to you. Barbara Jordan. Who is Barbara Jordan? Look it up. Find out who she is. Who's Jim Clymer? Who's J.C. Watts? Who is he? I mean, you may know who Tim Scott is. You may not know who Tim Scott is. You may not know who Kayloy Irvis is. But the other thing I want you to do is look in your neighborhoods, wherever you live, and look at some of those people who were trailblazers. And what I mean by trailblazers, who paved the road for all of us, for you and I. I sometimes think we forget that we were not first. There was somebody that was there developing things so that we could be better than what we are now. And I think that's important. But you know, in saying all that, I just want you to know that for my program tonight, I have a young lady on, and she is the mayor of the Borough of Steelton. And let me tell you why I have her on. I have her on because it's a small town. You have to really believe in it. She's not doing it for the money, I can assure you of that. And I just wanted to bring somebody on from a different perspective. Yes, I could get the mayor of Pittsburgh on. Yes, I am friends with the mayor of Pittsburgh, Ed Gainey. I could bring the mayor of Harrisburg on, that's Wanda Williams. And also, I am friends with the mayor of Philadelphia. But that's not what I wanted to do tonight. What I really wanted to do tonight, I wanted to bring someone on from a different perspective that believed in how they saw things. So I have the fortune, Ciera Dent, here she is, the mayor of Steelton. Well, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
What I'd like for you to do before we start, I'd like for you to tell us your journey. And then after you tell us your journey, me and you going to get into why you decided to become public service and why you decided to do some of the things you do. Because people don't know. A lot of people play a lot of lip service. I've been around so many people that do a lot of lip service. Oh, I think this, or I could change this, I can do this, I can change this. But you stepped up to the plate. So please tell the audience who you are.
Sure. So, again, my name is Ciera Dent. I am the mayor of Steelton. I became mayor of Steelton back in 2022. So this is my third year of a 4-year term. I started off really as just a kid that wanted to do, I just wanted to do something. I've always wanted to be a helper. I always wanted to see how I can make the world a better place. It used to always get me in trouble when I was a kid as well too. But the older I got, the more I was able to cultivate it and really hone in on what I feel as though my purpose is, throughout the world and throughout the things and the experiences that I've been through in life. So I'm actually originally from Wisconsin. I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I moved to Harrisburg around the age of 6, 7, somewhere around there. And I moved with my dad and my brother and my stepmom. So that was a huge culture shock. But we lived in Harrisburg for a couple of years until I was about 11, and then we ended up moving to Steelton. So that's where I've been since I was 11, other than a couple of excursions that I decided to take throughout life. But yeah, Steelton has been home for me since I was 11 years old, and it still is home. And I love my community. I love the uniqueness of it, the melting pot feel that you get. You get so much diversity that comes in it. So yeah, it's an honor to be able to serve the borough for sure.
And of course, I was reading some things on you, and of course, you said 4 amazing children.
4 of
and you
them.
used the word amazing.
They are.
And that's very important because you're very supportive of it. It's a very close-knit little town. And of course, you have athletes in your family that you go
Rollers.
you cheer everybody on.
3-time state champs, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to ask you a couple questions, and I think I'm gonna start this way. Now, people have to understand that you are the mayor of Steelton Borough. So, what is your responsibility as being the mayor of Steelton?
Okay. So a lot of people confuse borough mayors with city mayors. And I think the biggest thing is most people think that the borough mayor also has the same power, the same authority, the same pay rate, all the different perks that come with being a city mayor. The borough is not like that. I am the mayor of about 6,000 people, give or take. So with us being a borough, the way that a borough is set up is that the power mainly lies within the borough council. So the mayor oversees the police department and also works closely with the borough council in regards to council meetings, moving the community forward, trying to figure out different ways that we can help the community together in a collaborative effort. But the main purpose for the mayor is to be the voice for the community and to also oversee the police department. I work closely with our fire department. I probably do a little bit more than what most borough mayors do, only because I have a passion for it and I really want to see my community change. But mainly that is my role as the mayor, is to oversee the police department.
Now, unfortunately, people think the mayor just can wave a wand and correct everything. So, would you please explain to my audience, even though you're just a mayor of a little borough, could you please explain to my audience sometimes how it's been tough?
It's very tough because, like I said, I don't have the power to make those type of changes. If it's outside of the police department, even with the police department, I still have to get the vote from the council. I still have to have council support in anything that I do. And a lot of people think that the change is easy to be made. They think that you can just go in and change stuff and shake stuff up and move things around. It's not easy. One thing that I've learned with government is that it can run pretty slow and it can be a process. And a lot of people don't understand when you're walking into a new role or a new position, it takes time to make a lot of change, and not just change, but you have to undo what could have been ineffective. So you're tearing down different things, you're unlearning different things, you're trying to figure out what went wrong so that you can actually make it better for the community. So you have to be willing to be patient with a lot of things in my role. You have to be willing to build those relationships with other elected officials, other public officials, neighboring communities. I think that's probably the biggest advantage when it comes to being the mayor of a borough, because it gives you the influence, and if you use the influence correctly, you build those relationships that you need to make the change you want to see.
In saying that, how has the public perceived you in terms of, I'm going to read a quote here that you had. I giggle every time someone tell me you're not what I expected when they said the mayor was coming. So how did you deal with that?
I think it's funny because a lot of people don't expect to see a young black girl with blonde hair walking in, with the earrings that dangle, and they just don't expect to see that from someone who is the mayor. And I think that for me, it's funny. I like it because it tells me that I'm showing people that the face of politics is changing. and that it doesn't matter what you look like or what people perceive you to be, that you can do pretty much anything you put your mind to, and people are just going to have to learn to kind of, deal with it. That's kind of where it comes from.
Steelton has been known for, it's a town that everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
So how have you been able to handle that? Because everybody knows everybody. So how has that helped you in terms of you govern the borough of Steelton?
It helps a lot. With us being a small community, it helps in regards to public safety. It helps when you're trying to make connections, if you need resources, if you're trying to get in contact with somebody. It also helps because it builds that family knit and that family feel where a lot of people, they feel more comfortable talking to you. If they knew you prior to your role, like for me, a lot of people knew me prior to me being mayor. So people still felt comfortable enough to come and have certain conversations with me that they probably necessarily didn't have the comfortability of having with previous elected officials or even current elected officials. So it gave me the ability to build trust with those residents and to stay relatable to the residents and show them that even though I'm in this role, I'm still accessible like I used to be.
Well, so let me just move it a little further.
Okay.
When you ran, apparently you had to have a platform.
Yeah.
So would you tell the audience what your platform was and how you feel that what you promised or what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of elected officials
Mm-hmm.
that make a lot of promises. And when they get in, three things happen. They forget,
Mm-hmm.
or they realize they can't do what they said they can do. I always use that scenario. When you first run, you can say things that maybe you can get away with.
Mm-hmm.
But now you can't say them because you know better.
Right, exactly.
And so tell me, in that whole process, I'd like to know, one, what your platform was.
Mm-hmm.
But then after you tell us what your platform is, then I'm going to start to ask you, I got a pen here to write them down, where you are with your platforms. Okay.
So my platform was public safety was one of them. Also community policing, community engagement, building relationships with the different entities that are involved with the borough, and also bridging the gap between what I consider to be the old regime of Steelton and the new regime of Steelton. So those were my main platforms, and I would have to say I was very smart when I made my platform because, like you said, a lot of people go into positions promising things that they really can't do. And I knew that going into a position like this, I really didn't have the power to make certain changes. So I knew that I had to make promises that I knew I could keep because if I didn't, people will be asking me the same question, like, well, what did you do? Or did you keep the promises that you promised us?
Okay, so we're going to talk about
That's not bad.
we're going to talk about your platform. I mean, and we're going to talk this one. This is probably the first one because the relationships with law enforcement, no matter where you live, what township, what borough, has always been testy for a number of reasons. Mm-hmm. And I realized that the whole concept now of community policing is very important.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you see in the need of community policing? And what is your perception of community policemen?
So for me, growing up in Steelton, I grew up in the old regime, of course. So for me, we got harassed a lot when we were kids. There was definitely blatant racism, throughout our law enforcement and our police department. It's a sad reality, but it's a reality. And I knew that was something that I had to figure out how can we change it, because we need the trust of the community, and we need our community to feel as though that our officers and that our police department is there to actually help and to not harm. So for me, I wanted to put together or execute in some type of way, a way that the community is not just looking out for themselves, but that they also know that the police department is backing them up and that we're supporting them and we're actually protecting and serving and not harassing and intimidating. So I changed up a lot of things within the police department. When I came in, we also got a new police chief as well. He started a couple of months after, well, he'd been with the police department for years, about 25 years actually. And so when he became chief, he and I, it just so happened that we had the same ideas. We wanted to have the same goals. So me and him was able to align our goals and our purpose as him as chief and me as mayor to make sure that we brought certain things to pass. So we started doing things within our parks, reaching out, trying to engage with the kids, making sure that the officers, the newer officers that we were hiring, that they actually had a heart for community. Because I think that's another thing. We have, a lot of departments, they hire officers that really don't have a heart for community, nor do they have a heart for the people that they're called to serve. So it's hard to build a relationship when people feel as though that you really don't care about them. So my goal with hiring officers, when we are, testing them and we're interviewing them, I'm looking for the feeling of, are you going to be a good fit for our community? I don't care how good you did in the police academy. Like, I don't care how good you did on your police test, how high you scored. To me, that's not my concern. My concern is, are you going to be able to fit in with the community? And are you going to treat the community as family while you're here? Because we need to make sure that we're not bringing in bad apples to change up what it is that we're trying to do.
And I think that's important what you're saying, because even when I was growing up, that the relationships with law enforcement was very questionable. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were harassed and whatever, and there were a lot of very good law enforcement. Yeah. There were always just a few, mm-hmm. And I think about it sometimes. I remember we being on a corner. We weren't really doing anything, and the person pull up and say, "Get off the corner." And of course, there's always one of us that would say, "Why?"
Right.
And of course, they would say, "'Cause I told you so."
Right.
And we would say, "Yeah, okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes." And of course, we stayed on the corner for 4.5 minutes. And then when the 30, we stayed on there for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And when they pulled up that 30 seconds, we found out that we could run, and we were faster. We were not. That's just the way it was. When people say they get confused sometimes about defunding the police. Mm-hmm. Now, my attitude has always been that defund the police got hijacked, mm-hmm. and it got hijacked, and somebody took it and made it more negative than what it was. And every time I think about it, I get upset, because when they say defund the police, I think that's just, I want your perspective of it, but my perspective have always been, every community want police in their community, so we ain't talking about defunding the community that way. I didn't see it that way. I saw it as we were doing things, and we said, got mental health, you got this, mm-hmm. you got that, instead of just locking everybody up and throwing the key mm-hmm. away. But I get tired of hearing people say, defund the police, or act like we don't have no respect for the law enforcement. Mm-hmm. And the other one is, like, we don't want anybody to protect our community. Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer. Criminals should be locked up. I get upset when I see older people, and I guess you include me as well, where they're scared to sit on their porch, because my father been through it, where my father, where we grew up at, after 6 o'clock, he would go in the house and lock the door and act like they're not in there. Or they go shopping at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because they're afraid. Mm-hmm. They're afraid in their own community because they don't want nothing to happen to them. Mm-hmm. And that's why I said it's very important, and you brought it up, we have to develop some relationships. Mm-hmm. That's why I think it's very important, and I say this all the time, that you need to tell young people, hey, how you doing? Be positive, mm-hmm. not negative. And I've also told young people, it don't hurt you to say, hello, how you doing? Have a good day, mm-hmm. because we have to blend together. Right. So what is your perspective on community policing or defund the police?
I think I agree with you in regards to, I think that when it was first when the notion first came and when it first started to be a conversation, a lot of people were having a conversation in regards to a lot of police departments and law enforcement having this excessive budget that wasn't being used for their community. So a lot of people felt as though that, the police department just had all this money, but it wasn't showing up within the community. It wasn't helping the community and it wasn't beneficial. So people were asking, okay, well, why are their budgets so high? Why do they need millions of dollars for this? What are they doing here? They started asking questions, which I feel as though every resident has the right to ask those questions because it's taxpayer money. So I think that that's how it originally started. And then, of course, we took it and people took it and they ran with it and made it to a point where it was like defund the police because we don't need them.
Right.
We need them. Like at the end of the day, what I see, what I've experienced, it's sad because a lot of people who are the ones that yell defund the police, they be the first ones to call them. They're the first ones, to call 911 when they need something, and then they're the first ones to get an attitude when they don't show when they want them to show up. So it's like we have to have a balance. I'm all for questioning and making sure that taxpayer money is being used effectively and that it's being used to in a point where it's beneficial to the borough or that's beneficial to the community. But I also now understand why the budgets are so high. Running a police department is expensive, and a lot of small places can't do it. Like our budget is about maybe 2.4 million, somewhere around there. And every year we're looking at our budget trying to find out ways that we can decrease it, that we can move money from one place to another, we can allocate it for something else. And even like you said, I think that you had to open it up to using the resources that are actually being paid for. I think a lot of departments don't use the resources that they're paying for. And if they're not combing through their budget with a fine-tooth comb, they're paying for services that the residents aren't being able to benefit from. So I think that just comes down from, checks and balances and things of that nature. But one thing that you mentioned was in regards to like mental health. That was one thing that we actually started when I first came in office. Dauphin County actually started a program where they sent mental health co-responders to a lot of the different municipalities within Dauphin County, and we were grateful enough to receive one as well. So that helped as well with our community policing, because we were able to start deciphering, is this a mental health crisis or is this actually a criminal act? And a lot of the times we realize that most people are having mental health issues. So I don't believe that someone having a mental health issue needs to be thrown in jail. Like, to me, that's crazy because they're not going to get the help. They're going to go to jail, they're going to do some time, then they're going to get back out, and they're still going to have these mental health issues. So we had to learn how to use the resources that were there and that we have so that we can serve the community in a better way.
Okay, so go ahead. You were talking about some of your other platforms that you use. So share us with the other three that you named.
What was the other one? Building relationships with other community leaders and other entities that we've had. So Steelton is very unique in so many different ways, but one of the ways that we're very unique is that we share a school district with another borough. So we have, Steelton High Spire School District, but our school sits inside of Ciera Township. So we have a lot of private entities that are connected to Steelton in so many different ways. And when I came in, there were a lot of animosity from previous leaders. There was a lot of broken relationships. There were, things that were either miscommunicated, whatever the case may be, but there were a lot of broken relationships. And I knew that in order for me to lead well and to be able to govern in the seat that I'm in, I had to learn how to rebuild these relationships with these different entities, with the school district, with Ciera Township, with High Spire, with our state officials, with whoever has a hand in Still. And I had to learn how to rebuild those relationships because a lot of them wasn't there. So, from that point to now, I think I've done really good. I have a really good relationship with a lot of our public officials, a lot of our community leaders, our school district, Still, High Spire Borough, I have a great relationship with our state rep, with our previous state rep, even to the federal level. I have a great relationship with Senator Casey. So I've been able to build those relationships so that when resources are available or there's opportunities for Steelton to receive certain things, they reach out to me and let me know that things are available and that they want to help out in any way can. And that helps us because it gives us the opportunity to not spend so much taxpayer money, where we can probably get funding from, the federal level or the state level or the county level. So it helps us out a lot more.
Because also, would you say, I'm going to ask you about your third one in a minute, but before I'm going to go back to your tax base.
Okay.
Because your tax base is tough.
Yeah, it is.
Because people don't understand that how many you said, about 6,000?
Mm-hmm.
And your median income is about?
I want to say it's between 35 and 38,000.
Between 30 and 38,000. So that's the median income of your tax base. And of course you have this steel mill over there.
Yeah, still have that steel mill.
And I know they're over there, and a lot of times people think that back in the day, the steel mill did a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the steel mill is not trying to do a whole lot.
Well, I think within their last couple of years, prior to them switching management and new owners, like I want to say at the end of last year, either last year or the year before, they actually got new ownership. So someone else bought it out. It used to be Bethlehem Steel and the steel mill, and now it's Cleveland Cliffs.
Right.
With Cleveland Cliff coming in, we actually were able to build even a great relationship with them. They're in our community. They're in our school district. They fund a lot of our events. They sponsor a lot of different events. So we actually have a really good relationship now. Prior to that, I really can't speak to because I wasn't here.
Okay. Okay, that's all right. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
I don't know what I was doing before that.
So how do you see Steelton? You're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see new vision there? And when I say new vision there, of course I just saw the other day that the Rite Aid is closing up there.
Yeah.
You do have the dollar store and the family store, so you do have those. And I do know that in a few months that you will have a Hamilton Health Center there. And not only you'll have a health center there, but a lot of you may not know, it's going to have a pharmacy as well.
Yeah.
Those of you want to know how I know, I'm on the board of Hamilton Health. But my point is, how do you see Steelton growing in any way? And I'm answering these questions because as I drive up, you see a lot of stores gone, and so what is your vision of revitalization of Steelton?
Ooh, I like that question. Steelton's actually is one of the things that I brought up yesterday at our council meeting is the condition of our front street. I think that we have a lot of work to do. There are new businesses coming in, which is great. But in the same sense, we can't forget about the businesses that have been there, and we have to figure out a way to not only help them keep their business and keep the traffic coming in to their businesses, but we also have to make sure that we're giving them resources and supporting them in a way where they don't have to feel as though they have to go somewhere else to actually make money or to be a successful business. I think that as a borough, we've kind of dropped the ball on that. To be honest, is that we've had a lot of businesses that came in and left. Front Street, unfortunately, has been very transient, and when it comes in regards to businesses. So I think that council has to figure out a way to keep those businesses there, and not only keep them there, but actually support them. I know for businesses, without that support, especially in the municipality that you're in or the community that you're in, if you don't have that backing, it makes it very difficult for you to be a successful business because it starts in that community. So we've thought of a couple of different ideas. I know a couple of years ago, one of my ideas was to start starting to highlight the different businesses that we have and making sure that we're touching base with them, seeing what it is that they need. Yesterday, me and one of the council members actually took a walk through Front Street and stopped at all the open business and just had a conversation with them, asking them what they needed, asking if they, what concerns they have, if their businesses were struggling, made sure that we gave them our contact information just in case they had any questions or needed resources. Because I think what happens is, and the majority of Front Street, the majority of our businesses is Black-owned businesses. So while I'm very proud to say that, I still feel as though that we have to do better by them. And not just the Black-owned businesses, but just small businesses in general. A lot of times we feel like it's easier for us to go to the stores that we know or the big name stores instead of just shopping locally and supporting our community, because people don't understand that that local support actually helps the business and it helps your community. So I think it's a huge educational proportion that needs to come into place in regards to consumers and how businesses are ran and how we can support them. But it also has to be an educational piece as well in regards to the local government as well, to make sure that we're doing our part to support those businesses, whether it's highlighting them, whether it's giving them contracts on certain things, making sure that we are looking at our businesses that are home first prior to looking outward.
Okay. How is the housing in Steelton? And I asked housing because I do understand that if you had a lot more higher income houses, then the tax base would be a little greater. Mm-hmm. So how do you see housing in Steelton and about affordable housing and the direction that Steelton wants to go in, or what you feel Steelton should go in?
I think when it comes to housing, I think we have to deal with a lot of the root issues. One of the root issues that I've been actually working with State Rep Dave Masson in regards to is negligent landlords and people who buy up these properties. They come into small communities or what they consider to be urban communities, and they buy up all these houses. They fix them up, or they flip them, or they put a Band-Aid on them, and then they rent them out. And then they hide behind a shell company, or they don't even live here. They could live somewhere across seas or in Florida somewhere. And now you have this building that probably should have never even been rented out, and now you have a family in there. So I think we have to look at it from the root of it all, of making sure that when we are talking about housing, that we're making sure that we are offering, and that we're making sure that people are also offering safe homes and safe housing. Because it's one thing for it to be affordable, but if you can't live in it, I mean, it kind of cancels itself out. So one of the things that me and State Rep Maston started working on, that we're actually in the middle of, it has to go to the Senate now, is that he started a bill in regards to relocation fees to hold landlords accountable when they are negligent to their properties. So if a landlord is not taking care of their property and something happened where the tenant now has to move due to the negligence of the landlord, that tenant can now hold the landlord responsible to pay for their relocation fees until they find another suitable home, unless the landlord is able to put them in a more suitable and equable home. So that's one way that we're trying to fix that issue. And also we have to deal with our blight issue in regards to housing. Offer incentives when it comes to people coming into the borough to buy homes, making sure that we're vetting people prior to them coming in to the borough just to buy up places, and making sure that they're not just this person that decided they wanted to buy a house and they come in, they want to do an experiment in Steelton, and then we have a family that's suffering because they really didn't know what they were doing. So I think that that's part of the root issue that we have to deal with, and I'm hoping that we can have, once we deal with our blight issue, I think that we'll also be able to deal with the housing issue, because there's a lot of empty houses. There's a lot of ran down houses in the borough that we really just need to get fixed up. And that comes down on making sure that we're holding property owners accountable to their properties.
Even though that's a problem in all cities.
Mm-hmm, it is.
I mean, Harrisburg,
everywhere.
all of them. They go into urban areas and they buy up these houses. And as you say, they flip them. Mm-hmm. And then after they flip them, they put people in who really need somewhere to live,
Right, they need somewhere to
and
go.
they have no follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
So, in talking about housing, do you have an issue at all about homelessness in Steelton at all?
We don't have the homeless issue in regards to people sleeping on the street or sleeping on a bench, but we do have a homeless issue in regards to instability. So I know that I want to say there was just an article that ABC 27 did with the school district where they were able to release that they have at least 80 homeless students that attend our school district. Now, that could be still in High Spire, but I do know that there's a good number of people who they may not live in the borough, but they might live in a hotel, or they got evicted from their home and they had to be forced to live somewhere else, so they're still considered homeless because they don't have their own home. So we have those type of homeless issues where people are sleeping on their friend's couch or family member's couch. They're sleeping in their cars. They're just wherever they can lay their head at, that's where they sleep. And to me, that's also a form of homelessness because they still don't have that safe and habitable housing that I feel as though every American should have.
Let me ask you a couple other questions, and we're going to go to some other things as well because you wrote some books and you're an author.
I did,
so we'll talk about that. We'll
I
talk
did.
about that in a few minutes. But I just want to go back to you feel that your platform that you ran on, you believe that you did what you promised.
Yeah, and I think that I'm still doing it. I'm still improving it. I'm going to continue to do what I need to do until I'm out of office. Whether that be another term or not, my job and the role that I took on and the commitment that I took on, it holds me responsible to continue to do what I need to do until the last day of my term.
Do you feel that the community got your back?
I feel as though the majority of the community does. You're always going to have disgruntled residents. You're always going to have people who aren't, satisfied or who don't agree with you. I think that just comes with the territory of being in the public eye. You're always going to have somebody that criticizes. Some criticism is good and some is just because of who you are. But I do believe that the majority of our community, that they do support me. They keep me going. A lot of people come to me. They send me encouraging words. They pray for me. They, when they see me in the streets, they give me feedback, and they also help me to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I always tell our residents, at the end of the day, you're the one that gave me this power. Like, it's not my power. This is borrowed power. And the moment that you feel as though I'm not doing my job or I'm not doing what's best for the borough, you have all right and all power to take it back. So I keep myself humble, and that perspective of knowing that I'm on borrowed time when it comes to the borough, and I have to do what I feel as though is the best thing to do, and that I'm always thinking of the betterment of the borough.
All right, before I go to somewhere else, where do you get your inner strength from?
Ooh, child, the inner strength. I'm a Jesus lover. I love me. I love me some Jesus. I have a very strong faith. I believe, that God is the reason why I'm here and why I'm doing this assignment, because it wasn't something that I really signed up to do. It wasn't something that I would say, I'm gonna just go and be the mayor. It was not on my bucket list. And I tell people that all the time. It's just that I always had a heart for people. And I pray and I ask God, however you need to use me to help your people, I'm open to it. And this just so happened to be one of the ways that He is using me to for the betterment of the community, and to also, build people up and encourage people. And I think that, for me, it's a blessing, because with me not looking like your normal politician or fitting the mold of what most people will call a politician, it makes me very relatable to other people. They know that I still struggle as a single mom. They know I still have to work. I'm working part-time, I'm mayor full-time, so, and I'm mom all day long. So they know that I'm still regular. I'm still one of them. And I think that helps me when it comes to being able to do what's best for the people.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of other things that we got to talk about, and the clock is moving. So, you talk. I know for a fact that you have written some books.
I did.
But before I go there, see, I gotta put you on the hot seat for just one question.
Oh, Lord. Hot seat.
I call it the hot seat.
All right.
You're probably not going to answer, but I'm gonna put it. Do you have other political ambition?
I do.
Okay.
I won't say what, but
But at least you admit, see?
I do. At first, I did. I remember you asked me that when I first got in office.
Yeah, I
You was
did.
like-
I did ask you that.
And I said, no, I really don't.
I remember that. I asked you when you first got. I asked you that question. I said, "Yeah, but you looked at me as like,
Uh-uh.
let me just get through this."
Right.
That's what you said. I might not
No.
want to no more. Let me get through this.
Exactly.
But now
exactly.
you like it. It's your passion, and you see
Yeah.
that you're doing things.
Yeah, absolutely. I like it. I love being able to be able to touch the people. I think that's the biggest part for me. There's ups and downs to any type of job that you do or any type of position that you're in. But my why is what really keeps me grounded, and knowing that I'm really here with a pure and genuine heart to do what's best for the people. I don't have any ulterior motives. I don't do anything out of the norm that my conviction is going to, eat me up at night. I can honestly say I go to sleep at night. If I'm worried about anything, it's how can I make this community better? It's never about, did I do this? Was this wrong? Or because I took some type of corrupt deal, to advance my agenda. My whole goal is to advance, the kingdom that I believe in, and also to advance my community.
Okay, let's talk about your other things that you're doing.
Okay.
Now, tell my audience here you've written a couple books, so tell us what these books are.
Yeah, so this is one of my books. This is my newest baby, actually, The Autopsy of Transition. I just actually released this book in March for a lot of different reasons. I released this book because of a season that I was going through and a journey I went through back in maybe 2019. I decided to move to Alabama in 2018, and that was something. That was something it was crazy. It was a horror movie. I got down there, my finances was funny. Like, it just seemed like everything ended up drying up on me. And I was like, God, I thought this is where you sent me. I thought this is where I was supposed to go. And it ended up being super chaotic to the point where, 9 months later, I ended up coming back home because I had no other choice. I got evicted from my place. I had 4 kids. It was just me and my kids. I had no family down there. So, I had to, come back home with my tail between my legs. And, it was a really rough time. And I couldn't figure out why God would let me go through something like that, especially when I really thought that, this was something that he called me to. So as I, prayed on it, and as I, looked back at that journey, God gave me the title of this book, and he told me to start dissecting my transitions, because I feel as though that every transition that you go through, there's something in it for you to either learn. That means, there's something that you may need to address within yourself. What maybe you need to, dive deep into you and figure out why you keep going through certain cycles. So I look back at that journey, and I was able to pull out a lot of different things that I went through that helped me. And that honestly got me to where I am now. That was 2019. I came back home in 2020. In 2021, I was running for mayor. So it was, it definitely helped me, and it definitely matured me for the seat that I'm in now, and to be able to do the work that I'm doing. So I wanted to put together a book for people to be able to learn how to decipher and to dissect their transitions. A lot of times we curse the things that we go through, or we feel as though that we didn't learn anything or we didn't gain anything out of it. And I don't believe that there's any lesson that God will put us through that we have not gained something out of it. So I just talk about the different, I use the analogy of an autopsy through the book on how, when the body first arrives at the coroner's office, before it even touches the medical examiner. I talk about what I call the why incision that they do in an autopsy. I call it your spiritual why incision. Like, why are you doing this? Why did this happen? And you have to be willing to dig to find those answers. Like, why did this person, get shot, or why did this person die is the question that they ask in the autopsy. They want to find out the cause of death. And sometimes we have to dig into our transitions to figure out why we had to go through it. So there's a lot of good nuggets in there. It's a really good book. It's one of my babies.
Well, how can they get the book?
You can get the book at www.cieraddent.com. So again, cieraddent.com. Go get it. It's a good read.
Okay, you did another book too.
I did 4 books. This is
well,
my
tell
fourth.
us about your
Jesus.
books. I mean, we want to know what kind of we want to know the kinds of
and they're all on my website as well. So my first book was called.
Excuse me. What's your website? Tell people so we can find
it. It's www.cieraddent.com. My first book is called A Single Mother's Diary. I wrote that in regards to what single mothers go through, what it looks like. The journey that we go through, the challenges we go through, how we can support each other as single mothers. Just motivating and inspiring mothers as they get through, the single motherhood, because it's a journey. I like to, there we go, right there. I like to tell people that it's, that it's a walk in the park. Sometimes that park is Jurassic Park, but it's a park, and it's worth it in the end. I have 4 wonderful children, and I have a 17-year-old who made me mom first, and he'll be 18, and he's my pride and joy. He's a football player. He's a self-taught photographer. Anything he touches, it blooms. I have some amazing children, and I believe that that's one of the reasons why you have to learn about your transitions, because if you don't pull out the good stuff, you're always going to focus on the bad stuff. Another book is Mask Off. I talked about how to break like generational curses and how to come face to face with the cycles that you keep finding yourself in. I wrote that book because I was pregnant with my, I want to say my 3rd child, and it just didn't sit well with me that I had a 3rd kid out of wedlock, and I really wanted to figure out why I kept finding myself in that type of cycle. What was causing me to be in these relationships that were not being fruitful. So I had to dig again, and I had to come face to face with mother wounds, deal with the issue that my mom wasn't really in the picture when I was a kid. Felt the feeling of abandonment and rejection and looking for love in the wrong places. So that's what Mask Off is about, dealing with the things of your childhood and using your trauma to turn into triumph. And then I wrote a book called Check My Walk, Not My Shoes. That book was in regards to my walk in Christ, and also in regards to losing my parents. So in 2015, I lost both of my parents. I lost my mom in March of 2015, and then I lost my dad in August of 2015. I was 28 years old, and I had just had my 3rd child. So I had a lot of different things going on at one time. And within that book, I talked about how all those different situations, how it's okay to question your faith. It's okay to ask God, is he really there? And how you can use these different situations and the things that you go through to strengthen your faith and to also know that God isn't turning his back on you every time you go through something bad. If you're in it, he's in it with you, and we have to just be able to pull on that faith that we say that we believe in, to get through those different journeys, and then use all of those different things that we learn as stepping stones into our new seasons and our new journeys. So 4 books.
So how did you get your spirituality in terms of writing the books, in terms of guidance and wisdom?
I would say, a lot of studying. At that time, a lot of the books that I wrote were at the time where I had literally just started dedicating my life back to Christ. So from 2014 to recent, that's when I really started taking my walk more serious and learning and, going to church and being discipled, being mentored, things of that nature. So I started to look at the Bible as, how can I find myself in these people, And I saw that the majority of people in the Bible were jacked up. Like they got all different types of stories, and they went through different traumas, and they went through, hardship and grief and loss, but they also had seasons of victory and gain and blessings and all those different things. So I found myself to be like one of the characters of the Bible, to where I'm like, if they can go through it, I can definitely go through it too. If we're believing in the same God, evidently I have to have the same faith to believe that I'm going to be able to come out from it too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So did you have a religious foundation from the very beginning?
I did not. Funny thing is, my father was actually raised Catholic, and my grandmom on my dad's side was Catholic as well. I didn't grow up with my mom, so I don't know what in the world she did, but my grandmom on my mom's side, she grew up as Christian, but she kind of fell away from the faith, but she still kept. She believed, but she didn't put it into us, and we weren't around for her to do that either. Um, I believe it actually came from my aunt, from my stepmom's side, actually. She would come and get me when I was a little girl, and she would take me to church with her. I don't know why or how. I have no clue how that conversation happened, but I was the only one that she would come, and she would take me to church with her every time she went. I went on, Sundays. Back in the day, you was in church Sundays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, school Bible studies, children's Bible study, vocational summer school. Like, we did all of that. And so that is what built my relationship and my foundation. But then as I got older into my teenage years, I kind of fell away because I was in church so much, it kind of turned me off. So I was like, no, I'm done. I want to kind of get away from church. I don't want to do it no more. And then when I had my second child, that is what really kind of pushed me back into church. I just felt like it was God, pulling me back in. And every time, I tell people all the time, every time I had a child, I felt like it was God telling me, all right, come back. You went a little too far. I'm gonna need you to come on back. So that was the foundation that really put those seeds in me, and I'm grateful that my aunt did, because now I can say, or I can walk into who I believe God has purposed me to be.
Of course, time is running quickly here, so I would like for you to tell the audience whatever you want to share, whatever passion or whatever wisdom or whatever guidance that you feel that you want to tell the audience.
Sure. I think that one of the biggest things that I want people to be able to pull out of my life and to be able to see from the journey that I'm on is that anything is really possible. You just have to have the determination. You have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to go against the grain, even when people say no. Sometimes you have to motivate yourself. You have to inspire yourself, and you have to have a really strong why. I said that to a group of kids yesterday that came down to our Borough Council meeting, is that you have to always remember what your why is, because your why is what's going to keep your heart pure. It's going to keep you on the right path. Even when things get hard, it'll tell you and it'll remind you why you're going after whatever that goal is. In regards to politics, I think a lot of people, we need to educate ourselves. We really need to educate ourselves, because there's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of resources out there, but if we don't know about it, we can't give it to our communities. So this was a really great opportunity for me, because it opened up my eyes to all the different possibilities that our residents and that our communities that we can use when it comes to businesses, when it comes to knowing your rights, when it comes to, just trying to make a better life for yourself. And it starts with politics. A lot of people say, I don't do politics. You do politics, you just don't know you do politics. Everything about your life is political, whether it's the clothes that you're wearing, the food that you're eating, the job you work at, there is politics in everything that you do. And we just have to make sure that we're playing the good politics and we're not doing the corrupt politics, because there are some corrupt politics. And I think that, we're now in a season where we're seeing a lot of new faces, and we're here and we're ready to do the work, and we're doing it for the right reasons.
If you had to leave this audience with just 4 bullet points of words, what would those words be?
Ooh, that's good. One would be become, inspire, believe, and let's see. Oh, what's the last one? Let's say, that's hard. I need one more. Wisdom. We'll say wisdom.
Well, thank you. It was refreshing to have you on the program. Even though I know you and I talk, I think sometimes it's good to have someone on that is passionate, genuine, and believe in what they believe in. I've been somewhat fortunate because I've known, or not fortunate, I guess, I've known a lot of politicians.
Yeah.
And being very honest with you, of course I know Senator Casey, of course I know the governor, and of course I know all those people. But I have to say this. By having you on here, I hope this gives people a different perspective that you can run for office and you can be a politician and you can do great things. And I'll only say that because when I went to college, my father asked me what I was going to major in. And I said political science. Of course, he asked what was political science. And I told him politics.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget what he said to me. He looked at me and he said, I hope you don't be one of those crooks. And that's what he believed.
Yeah,
and that's what
absolutely.
he thought of people. So I can say this tonight. You've given some people hope that everybody is not crooked.
Absolutely.
Giving people hope that they have vision, hopes, and dreams. Because there's a lot of elected officials out here that care about you.
Absolutely.
And there's some of you who are sitting on the couch or wherever you are that you can be leaders. We need leaders. We need leaders like you. I want to thank you for coming on today because what I wanted to do, I want people to see you and realize they're just like you.
Yeah.
And they can do it too.
Just like
So
you.
thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm thankful for the opportunity and to, be a face to show people that, you can be you and to, let people know that broken crayons still color. That's the biggest thing.
So
You
we're
can
going to leave with
still-
that. We're going to leave with that.
That's it.
Yep.
Thank you for joining the Richard Utley Show on The Voice 17104. We will be here on The Voice 17104 every first and third Tuesday from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Once again, thanks for viewing. Remember to visit us on Facebook at Richard Utley